All right, hello again, everyone. If I haven't said hi to you yet, hello. And that includes here in person as well. Oh, Michael, do you have a question? Oh, no, never mind. I thought your hand was up. You don't even want to know why I thought that. My cursor turns into like a little hand when it's on somebody's little box, and I thought you were like raising your virtual hand. Hi, Heen. Hi, Leaf and Don. Rainey, hi, and Susan. And then everyone else who doesn't have their video on. Welcome, everybody.
Do you have time for a question?
Sure.
Do you know what the retreat is going to look like in terms of what we're going to be doing and for how long we're going to be doing it, things like that?
Sorry, say that one more time, Paul. For what?
The retreat that was coming up.
Oh, the retreat. Oh, yeah. I don't. I'm not doing that. I'm not going. Are you talking about the Vajrayogini retreat?
Talking about the one that's around the end of summer.
Oh, yes, Light of the Path.
Right.
There is going to be news coming out about that soon, actually.
Okay, thank you.
So stay posted.
Okay.
Looks like Don Brown has arrived. There'll be an announcement soon. Okay, so to answer your question, Paul, Light of the Path retreat that was going to be 2 weeks here in North Carolina is not going to happen in North Carolina due to a lot of logistical issues. And it will be held in Kopan Monastery near Kathmandu. And the dates have changed slightly. It'll be in September instead of mostly August.
Go trekking over there.
John, you did want to show the video tonight, correct?
Yeah, that's always good. Thank you. Hey, 17. I'm almost done.
You need anything else, John?
No, we're fine. It's far away.
Well, I'll do announcements. So a couple of announcements. Here we go. So, sorry, let me gather my thoughts. Okay, so this is module 2 of Discovering Buddhism, and it is how to meditate. This is a 6-week class, and so it starts tonight and it ends March 20th. We'll meet here as well as online on Zoom and on YouTube as well. The classes are recorded, so if you miss a class or if you want to go back and review a class, you can find the link on the Media Center. It's called Media Kadampa Center, actually, on YouTube. And I did send out a link, so if you've registered for the Discovering Buddhism course, you would have gotten an email with lots of information. If you didn't, just let me know, and I can make sure you get that. So all of our classes here at Kadampa Center are free of charge, but we do have this amazing building with some awesome grounds as well, and we have great teachers such as Don Brown and others. And we have actually 4 Discovering Buddhism teachers that are certified through the FPMT, which I think is very unusual for centers, as well as 2 resident geshis. And several nuns as well. So we have a lot of expenses. So if you can support Kadampa Center in any way, we would greatly appreciate it so that we can keep these classes going and keep the internet on and lights on and keep making the Dharma available to others free of charge. So really, whatever you can contribute, we greatly appreciate it. And if you can't, that's okay too. No one is checking or anything like that. Lots of ways to donate. If you're here in person, there's a little drop box just outside the Gampa door. There's ways to contribute online by just clicking a link and entering your information, or you can send in a check. All right, so got that out of the way. Don, do you have anything you want to say before we start the video? Or do you want to jump into the video?
No, I can say a few things.
Okay.
So this is how to meditate. And, it's this class, it covers a lot of material, and yet it's pretty straightforward. And I remember the first time I ever taught, well, anyway, I shouldn't tell this, but I'll say it anyway. It's sort of a Buddhist meditation class. I said, I was in Birmingham, Alabama. Yes, Birmingham, Alabama. Coleman was just down the way, hum of the KKK. I kept thinking something bad's going to happen, but it didn't. Anyway, I was teaching this class, and actually Robbie Watkins was in that class. I was just reading my notes. I didn't know anything. I was scared to death. And but I did say this, and those of you at home, you do what you're going to do. But at that class, I said, okay, if you don't fully participate, you don't expect to get much or anything out of it. So what does fully participating in a meditation class mean? Well, it means that you do some practice every day, and and you show up to the classes, and you stay from start to finish, and you do the readings, and that's called fully participating. And so I asked these people, and there were like 10 of them, 10, maybe 12 at the most. I was shocked that anybody showed up, but it was through a UAB extension class, for the community. Anyway, I said, okay, if you're willing to be 100%, keep your word, show up, do it all, 100%, stand up now. And then I didn't expect, I didn't know what would happen. I said, before I even said that, I said, if you're not willing to do this, then please don't participate. This is my really first class I ever taught. I said, if you're not willing to 100% participate, then this is not really going to be very valuable for you. So it's probably not worth it. So if you're going to 100% participate, stand up. And everybody stood up. And I said, now sit down. Now anybody who's not willing, who's not 100%, and nobody stood up. So it was a very powerful moment. And I swear that class went on 2 times a week for 6 weeks, and everybody showed up and stayed there, did the work. It takes a commitment. Now, I'm not asking, I didn't see anybody jump up just now when I said that, but you get what I'm saying? Otherwise, you're just wasting your time. I'm serious. You're wasting your time. You'll hear some words, and you might get a little bit of woo-woo. You might feel a little bit, might have some good meditations, when you do them once in a while, but if you don't do it, you're much better to meditate 5 or 10 minutes a day than to meditate 3 hours one day a week. Get a daily practice going. When we'll talk about how to establish a daily practice, but I'm serious about this. This class it's not a lightweight class because it requires commitment. If you're not willing, and I'm saying this honestly now, if you're not willing to commit to it, let this be your last class tonight. Don't come back next week. Promise? You promise not to come back next week if you're not committed? You promise to come back next week if you are? Raise your hand if you're committed 100% to this class. And you'll be here every week, and you'll do the practices. All right? Now, put your hand down. Now, those of you who are not committed, raise your hand. I'm looking at you too, by the way. The online people. If you're committed, fine. How many online? Raise your hand if you're committed 100%. Okay? Now, if you're not committed, raise your hand. It's okay. I'm not judging here. I just want you to know the benefits are only accruable to those who do the work. And it is work. Anybody who thinks meditation is about spacing out and, la la land, that's not the meditation class we're going to be talking about. That's not what meditation is. Now, who can, before we get into this, who can define meditation? Okay. With what?
Don't forget to use the microphone.
I'm assuming it depends on the meditation type you're doing. If you're doing like an analytical meditation, you're trying to concentrate on one subject.
Well, you could become familiar with how to rob a bank. How you could become familiar with being angry. You could become familiar with spacing out. Become familiar with drugs. I mean, it's more than that, isn't it? It's building up, becoming familiar with beneficial states of mind. And you got to understand the mind. You have to understand what beneficial states of mind are worth cultivating. That's really important. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about, different states of mind that are beneficial, that we need to work on cultivating, and ones that we need to be aware of, and and not follow. It's really important to do that. So, what a great start. Now, let's do there's always, we didn't do, we didn't do the prostrations tonight, but that's okay. Let's do the refuge and bodhicitta prayer and maybe the 4 measurables.
Okay, so if you are in the Kadampa, there should be a gold prayer book. If you're in a chair, it's behind your seat. Or if you're on a cushion, there should be some around. So taking refuge in bodhicitta and 4 measurables.
Yeah.
So taking refuge in generating bodhicitta is on page 34, followed by 4 measurables on page 34, 35.
And I always try to, how many people are sort of brand new here? Okay. So I always try to explain what we're doing. Otherwise, I hear so many people criticizing Buddhism. All that ritual and those prayers and all that stuff is so yucky. I'm not used to it. I was Presbyterian, right? Back in the old days. And I was totally turned off by ritual, but a lot of prayers. But in Buddhism, we understand we need to make a point of understanding what we're doing and why we're doing it. So the main motivation for doing refuge in bodhicitta is 3 things. Number one is called fear or dread. Fear of what? Fear of living your life with the kind of mind you have right now. You have to understand that we're, as the Buddha said, all worldlings, that's us, are deranged. We're sick. So we have to come to grips with the fact that we all have problems, big problems, because our mind's out of control. And so we have to have some fear. Oh my gosh, how am I going to deal with aging and old age and sickness and death, and meeting leads to parting, and high position leads to low position, and all composite things must separate into their parts. And I'm never satisfied. And I'm going to get born again and again and die again and again, blah, blah, blah. All that kind of stuff. We have to have some healthy, it's the same dread that keeps you from walking out in front of traffic when cars are zipping by at 100 miles an hour and you're trying to walk across the 8-lane highway. You have to be cautious. You have to be respectfully afraid of the consequences of behaving, like that. So that's the kind of dread or fear we're talking about. It's a healthy one. It's one that protects us. It actually comes from having compassion for ourselves. Okay? And then the second part of this is confidence. It's confidence in Buddha, the Buddhas, the enlightened beings, but also our ability to be enlightened. We don't have that experience, do we? So this is, I'm saying the words, but for most of us, they're just words. Until we have some experience, it won't make any difference. But it's important to understand what the words in the beginning. So we have confidence in the Buddhas, the enlightened beings, but also our potential, our Buddha potential. We all have that. That's the claim that Buddhism makes. We have the potential to eliminate all of our thoughts and become, incredibly happy beyond our wildest dreams, and be able to help others too. So we have confidence. We have confidence in the Buddhas, the enlightened beings, and our ability, the Dharma, which are the realizations of the teachings, but also our ability to have those realizations in our mental continuum, and then the Sangha, the spiritual community, the helpers. Now, we think of there's a different kinds of levels of Sangha, but they're Sangha members who've actually realized the ultimate truth, emptiness. But normally we speak of Sanghas as like our spiritual helpers, our friends, our Dharma friends, like that. And so we have confidence in the Sangha, these spiritual helpers, but also our ability to become that for others. So again, we got dread of living a life with a mind that's out of control, which it is, and confidence that Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha can guide us, and also compassion. It's a big part of Mahayana refuge, is having compassion for ourselves and others. And then with that kind of motivation, then we can do these prayers. And the first two lines distinguish people from, the first two lines, I go for refuge until I make to the Buddha, Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. That differentiates Buddhists from non-Buddhists, right? Because you're going to refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, right? Anybody know what Dharma means? Well, it actually means, the Sanskrit translation means that which separates beings from suffering. So a medical textbook could be a Dharma textbook. You could call it Christian Dharma, but we call it Buddha Dharma. All right, so it's that which separates beings from suffering. We go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Supreme Assembly. So that's the Buddhists would not go, non-Buddhists wouldn't go for refuge, but Buddhists would. People in their heart of hearts would go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. And then the last two lines, may I practice giving and other perfections. Those other perfections are the Bodhisattva perfections. That's generosity, ethics, patience, enthusiastic perseverance, concentration, and wisdom. Am I missing something? There's a lot of them. I did. So the six perfections are the perfections of a bodhisattva. That's what we practice in the Mahayana tradition. So it's saying by becoming a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. So that's and again, it's crazy, isn't it, to become a Buddha? We can't even imagine being, we have a hard time, at least some of us, at times. I know I do. Sometimes, I don't get up every day and go, yeah, I'm so happy to be alive, Sometimes it's hard to get up and to be a human being. But the claim is that we all have the potential to be a Buddha. And that there are beings that have actually achieved full enlightenment. So may I become fully enlightened. May I eliminate all my faults, develop all of my good qualities to benefit all sentient beings. So that distinguishes what we do in the Kadampa Center and in the Mahayana tradition, the universal vehicle, from the Theravada tradition, which is the individual vehicle, which is about individual liberation. It's so-called nirvana. It is wonderful. Achieving nirvana would be fantastic for you, fantastic for the world. But that's not what the Mahayana motivation is. I want to make a difference. I want to liberate all sentient beings, all living beings, from their current state of confusion and suffering, and help them establish themselves as supremely enlightened beings, completely free of suffering and having developed all of their qualities. That's the goal of a Buddha. That's different from an arhat who's achieved nirvana. Nirvana is for individual liberation. Buddhahood is for the sake of others. Okay? So this is a big distinction between the two different schools of Buddhism. Not that, I'm not saying it's a big deal, but I just love Thai Buddhism and Zen, and Zen's Theravada, is Mahayana, but I've been to Thailand and Sri Lanka, and I think they're wonderful practices, and I've benefited from them. But the motivation is different. The motivation here is for others. Motivation for Hinayana, sometimes called Hinayana, but it's really the Theravada tradition, which is mainly Burma, Thailand, and Sri Lanka, and maybe southern parts of India now, and maybe some of Laos as well, but more, I think Laotian's more Zen, Thich Nhat Hanh type Zen. But but anyway, that's kind of where we are. So this is about, we're trying to motivate as much as we can our practice to benefit all living beings. It's so easy to say those words, but it's so hard to get a feeling for it. But there are ways to do that through practice, through meditation practice particularly. So, what I had before I came here? One of those little Celsius things that have loaded with caffeine. Uh-oh. Well, I was kind of a little tired when I left work. Anyway, here I am. I think this is me on steroids, but whatever. At a meditation class. How perfect. Well, before we do that, I want to share with you my friend I got for Christmas. And it's kind of cool. How many have done a lot of yoga before? And when you do yoga breathing, isn't it, you breathe in the count of 4, you hold it for 7, and you breathe out to the count of 8. I've heard that. Well, that's how this guy works. When he turns green, you breathe in to the count of, but you don't have to count. You just look at him. He's only 4 seconds. You breathe in through your nose, then he'll go sort of purple, like he's getting cyanotic, but he's not. You hold your breath for 7 seconds, and then when he goes blue, you breathe out through your mouth. This is going to reset our autonomic nervous system with this guy. So we'll do this for 3 or 4 minutes. Then we'll watch the video. But actually, before we do it, let's, yeah. My glasses I can barely see. Okay. So we do, again, this is, in the Tibetan tradition, we hold our hands, everything has symbolic meaning. The left hand actually symbolizes wisdom and female energy. The right hand symbolizes compassion or male energy, and the thumbs are tucked in, and they symbolize a wish-granting jewel, this mythological jewel that could bring all of our wishes. We hold it, and we hold it at our heart, because Buddhist thinks of the mind as being here, not here. Okay, so if and it's an option. You can do it, but it's kind of helpful to bring your mind to your. If you hold your hands at your heart, it kind of helps bring your mind to your heart. Then maybe the prayers actually come from your heart. That's kind of the hope. We'll do it that way. All right. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened. We'll do this together. We go for refuge until I'm enlightened, to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened, to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. And go for refuge until I'm enlightened, to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. Now, the four measurables, these are actually definitions. May all sentient beings have happiness, and the causes of happiness is a definition of what? From a Buddhist perspective. Yeah, it's love. May all sentient beings be free from suffering, and the causes of suffering is a definition of compassion. And then may all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering is kind of another special kind of love. And then the last one is, may all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. Well, that's equanimity. It's an equanimous, equal regard for all beings, not clinging to some and not feeling aversion and pushing away others, but equal regard for all living beings. And it's everything kind of starts from that. So we'll do those four lines now. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. And may all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. All right. So now we're going to watch our little friend here for maybe 3 or 4 rounds. And I don't know if the people at home can see him or not. Might even be her, but it's just a little... So this would be a time when now you'd be exhaling. But we'll start with the first inhalation when he'll go dark and then he goes green, and breathe through your nose. Hold your breath. Then breathe out through your mouth, through pursed lips. Normally, most of the time when we meditate, we just follow the breath. But this holding the breath really does help us get focused. It really does make a difference. So, and we breathe in to the count of 4, we hold it to the count of 7, and then we exhale through pursed lips through the count of 8. I've been doing this for the last month and a half. I really like it. Every morning when I do my practices, I use him. I find it helpful. Okay, so let's watch the video.
Meditation is an essential step to develop on the path to enlightenment. Even in our daily lives, we can see that with good concentration, we accomplish much more work of better quality. Without a stable mind, we're like a candle sitting in the wind. We're vulnerable to negative influences and don't have much power to progress on a spiritual path. All Buddhist masters have relied on meditation to gain realizations. And if we look at the benefits, it's easy to see why. We feel more happy, balanced, and focused, and we experience a sense of inner peace. But meditation is much more than a way to relax and feel happy. It's a proven method for us to experience the true nature of reality, the true nature of our minds.
The beneficial results of any positive action that we do can be vast or limited depending on our motivation. And this is just as true of meditation as it is of any other spiritual activity that we undertake. If, for example, our motivation focuses primarily on our own concerns and needs in a self-centered kind of way, then the positive results of this will be very limited. If, on the other hand, we focus more on becoming better persons, able to bring peace and happiness and harmony to those around us, then the beneficial results of this kind of meditation will be very vast indeed. Therefore, at the beginning of this second program in our series, How to Meditate, in which you'll be learning the skills of meditation, it's especially important to generate a positive and altruistic motivation, wishing to become a better person in order to be able to bring well-being, peace, and happiness to those around you.
So when we speak about meditation, what do we mean by meditation? Meditation is a discipline where you cultivate certain familiarity with the chosen object of meditation. Generally, the problem is that in our normal day-to-day life, in our unreflective states of mind, generally we let ourselves to be under the control and domination of our mind, and our mind comes under the domination of afflictive emotions and thoughts. And because of this, then it leads to influencing our states of mind on the whole to be overwhelmed by destructive and negative emotions and thoughts, which then perpetuates the whole cycle of problems, confusion, suffering, and so on. So what are we seeking in our spiritual practice is to try to reverse that cycle so that gradually we will be in a position to take charge of our mind and allow, prevent the mind from coming under the domination and influence of our negative impulses and thoughts. So the way in which we do this is to engage in a constant discipline of cultivation of this familiarity with the chosen object, so that we will be able to gain a certain stability of mind where we have the capacity to place our mind and allow it to abide single-pointedly with a degree of stability upon a certain chosen object. And here, when we speak about chosen object, we are, of course, talking about a positive object upon which we direct our thoughts and then cultivate familiarity with it, so that in this way, gradually, we'll be able to reverse the cycle. And this is the actual meaning and purpose of meditation in the Buddhist context. Therefore, we observe that the process of change that takes place within us is gradual. Similarly, when we are trying to dispel certain states of confusion or misunderstanding or misperceptions with regard to reality, again, that sort of process of illumination, the process of dispelling, comes through in a gradual way. Again, we can observe from our own personal experience. So in the actual process of meditation, there are principally two approaches. One is the analytic meditation. The other one is placement meditation or absorptive meditation. So in a sense, we are all familiar with the practices of analytic meditation and absorptive meditation. So what, as spiritual practitioners, what we are trying to do is to apply this very mechanism, which we are all naturally familiar with, onto a completely new area in a realm where we do not cultivate such familiarity, the realm of spiritual practice, the realm of enhancing positive qualities within us.
To have a mind where you can control your thought and your emotion is incredible. Without speaking about getting spiritual realization, just to be able to say stop to the thought when you want, to say stop to the emotion when you want, to have that capacity to be master of your own mind, to be able to say, oh, these thoughts stop, these emotions stop, now I have enough of you. And to be, whenever you want, you can stay still, So to have this capacity is an incredible, peace of mind, an incredible advantage, Suddenly you become master of your own mind. If you want to develop any qualities of mind, you need some mindfulness, some continuity in what meditation you do, For example, you meditate on love. If your mind of meditating on love gets constantly interrupted by other thoughts, there's no way that you will have the ability to develop a strong love, Same thing if you meditate about the nature of reality, how things really exist. If you have this inquiring mind which follows a stream of thought and wants to reach a conclusion and stay on it, you have to have had a concentrated mind which is able to follow the analysis without being distracted. And once you reach a conclusion, to look at it and see what it implies. You must be able to stay on the conclusion of your analysis and see what it implies, how it changes your whole worldview, based on that conclusion you have reached. So in order for that to function, again, you need to have a calm mind. If you have more, we have control over our mind, What happens is that instead of going constantly up and down like a yo-yo, being overly excited when something good happens and completely depressed when things go wrong, our usual mind, So with concentration, your mind becomes much more even. That evenness of mind actually is a type of joy, a type of peace, which is so pleasant. Much more pleasant actually than even the excitement of pleasure. To have this still inside is much more pleasant than having good news and good things happening out there. With time, we see that what we call pleasure, excitement, actually is a form of suffering. It's not real happiness, it's excitement, and it's like boiling water. There's no peace, no serenity in what we call pleasure. But this we see by practicing. So that's why I think effort put into concentration, into developing calm abiding, I think is very important. And we can do that in everyday life. It doesn't need necessarily to go into retreat to do that. You just know how to go about it and you have to know how to integrate it into your everyday life. In order to develop calm abiding, there are certain conditions, which help. So all these conditions we can gather in our everyday life. We don't need necessarily to go to a complete isolated place. It just means having little desire, be content with one's life situation, and have a little bit of peaceful environment. So even though one might have a family life, still we can wake up an earlier before everybody else and do some calm abiding then, or at the evening when everybody's at bed, or when the children are at school or something like that. One can find a place, a time in a day, if one wants it, for a peaceful meditation. So the first is to have, wishing to do the meditation, by seeing its advantage, then developing the determination, I'm going to do it, and for such amount of time I'm not going to lose the object, and then is to develop the mindfulness of holding the object without losing it. And once you're able to do that, then you use introspection to check the quality of your concentration. And then to make it more precise, if you're prone to dullness, then you hold the object more intensely. If you have too much excitement, you lose, you relax a little bit the grip on your object. And like that, slowly you find the middle way, and you're able to hold on to it. So that's a little bit the process, how one goes about it. And by doing that, one goes through 9 stages. Just in brief, I will go a little bit over that. So when one starts meditating on calm abiding and sits down, and think, okay, I'm going to meditate for 10 minutes, for 10 minutes, I will hold this Buddha image or watching the breath, So at the first stage, one said, wow, what a mess, One realized that one hardly ever find the object, During the whole session, we was, oh yes, I'm supposed to watch my breath. And the mind goes all over the place, So just from time to time, actually, you remember you're supposed to watch the breath. But your mind, most of the time, is going all over the place, So this is the first stage of meditating on calm abiding, is that You know, it's called placing the mind. It's actually trying to bring the mind onto the object in the first place. You know, so the whole session is spent bringing the mind on the object, you know, because most of the time it's away. You know? So then the second stage is called placement with continuity. So there one is able to bring the mind on the object and stay it for a little while before losing it again. Right? So there's a continuity. Before there was no continuity at all. You know, you just bring it there, poof, it goes off. You bring it there, it goes off. You know, here there is a continuity. Then the third stage is called patch-like placement. So there, at the third stage, you're able to stay on the object for quite a while. You know, you stay on the object, and from time to time you lose it. But then, as soon as you lose it, you are aware that you're losing it, and you're able to bring the mind back. And then the fourth stage is called close placement. You know? So at the fourth stage, from the beginning to the end of your session, you don't lose the object at all. You know? During the whole session, you're able to hold on to the object. Right? There still is distraction and dullness, but one part of your mind never loses the object anymore. And then the fifth stage is called controlling. So because at the fourth level you are able to stay for the whole session on the object, you know, you decided. By familiarizing yourself with that, you reach a state of inner peace you never experienced before. Suddenly, it's like your mind was always like boiling water, and suddenly the boiling water has subsided, and you find that your mind inside experience a kind of tranquility that you never had before. And you realize, wow, that's quite pleasant. The difference between the fifth and the fourth is that the fifth, there's no more gross laxity and gross excitement, you know. So, you know, the gross aspect of this disturbance has subsided. You still have subtle dullness and subtle excitement, but not anymore the gross aspect of it, you know. And then the sixth is called pacifying. It's very difficult to recognize because the object is there, it's stable, you know, and it's clear. What is missing is the intensity of holding onto the object. You know? So in general, when one reaches that state, it's better to lean towards the side of subtle excitement than to lean towards the side of subtle laxity, because subtle excitement is easy to recognize. At the seventh stage, you can stay on the object, you know, boom, 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 you sit there, you stay on the object, you know, and from time to time you have to check whether excitement, laxity has come about. But the main bulk of your sitting, you're completely there on the object. The excitement and dullness is not so strong anymore, you know. It doesn't happen often, and even if it arises, you just need to poof, 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 you know, and the thought, they stop. You know, the emotion, they stop. It's a process from going from your ordinary mind, which has this thought and things like that, to go into your mind of calm abiding. So it's like entering into a tunnel or entering into something, you know. So you focus your mind on the object and you go to a certain stage to go into that mind of calm abiding. And then the ninth stage is called placement with equanimity. So there's no more effort, you know. As soon as you sit down, you know, you're so familiarized with that state of meditation. You just sit down and you're in that state, you know, for the whole session. You know, no matter how long, you can stay on the object without any excitement or any dullness. You know? So that's a fantastic state of mind. This is the ninth stage of calm abiding. It's not the fully qualified calm abiding. Then you have to cultivate that for a certain period of time. And then there's something which is, if you cultivate that, there's a transformation of your body and mind happening. There's a kind of physical bliss which arises and a mental bliss. You know? And this physical and mental bliss give rise to a special physical suppleness or pliancy or lightness about your body and a lightness about your mind. you know, a sharpness, a suppleness about the mind, a pliancy, where you can apply your mind for anything virtuous you want, you know, whenever you want. The mind has always great enthusiasm, you know. You never lose enthusiasm for doing something positive, you know. So when this process has happened, you know, this physical and mental bliss has arisen, and then the physical suppleness and mental suppleness has arisen, you know, and gets stabilized, then this is called calm abiding. It's a very clear path. You know, it's very well put down, you know, and so you know exactly where you are, what's your problem, and how to face it, you know, to go to the next stage. So this you find, you know, in the Lamrim tradition, in the section on calm abiding, you know, you have an explanation in detail on that, you know. So, good luck.
Why I meditate is because I want to be happy. I think most people want to be happy. So, yeah, meditation is definitely, I think, the richest experience that I've had, you know, and it comes from inside. I don't have to, like, manipulate the externals. I don't have to do anything to get it. It's just a matter of my having kind of the discipline of mind to sit down. Normally I meditate twice a day, at least in the morning when I wake up, kind of when I'm still kind of just to get my frame of mind, my space in myself right. It's like I know that I'm already whole, you know, that I already have everything. It's all right here, and so therefore I can like go out in the world and, you know, be there for other people. By meditating, I feel, because of this heightened awareness, that I can almost sense my, if something's, you know, my own thoughts, like if I'm having negative thoughts about someone or kind of my own delusions, I can see them, you know, it's like, oh, right, there's my delusion. And there's like this separation sometimes between the thought and kind of my awareness, watching the thoughts coming, you know, and it's kind of, you know, like, it's like a dream, you know, or watching my own hallucination. You know, there's just some sort of space between them where I'm not really identifying with everything and how that relates to my morality. It's like keeping a check on my actions, you know, my thoughts, you know, my words. If something's happening, I'm not like just, you know, jumping out and saying, reacting with harsh words. If I keep that, you know, like very spacious awareness, you know, it's like, this is all me, and why would I want to have these ugly thoughts or, you know, towards, you know, these kind people around me.
So this perfect meditation involves concentration, and concentration is a very elusive thing, I have found. It's very funny because you think that you can just go and you can set the mind, especially in a quiet environment. You're not going to have the outside influences. And you'll be able to get to a very concentrated state very quickly. Well, that may be true at certain times, but I tell you, most of the time the mind is wandering. It takes a lot of determination. It takes a lot of time to be able to control it. I found during retreat, you get a little taste of how things really do exist. And once you get that little taste, you become very hungry. You want to repeat that experience. So meditation is vital for that, because you want to keep bringing the mind back to that little taste you had. We have the fortunate circumstances to receive the Dharma teachings in this life, to meet these precious lamas who are spreading the truth, and that we can realize this truth. It's not just for lamas or teachers or long-term meditators. I mean, the common, everyday person, the business person, the housewife, everybody can realize the ultimate nature. And we must do it because we have this human rebirth. We have a very short time. We have this flash of lightning in order to do it. And we can't waste our lives drowning in alcohol, drowning in drugs. We have to do it with positive actions. We have to use meditation to calm the mind. We have to use meditation to understand the way things really exist. And we have to use meditation to achieve that goal in order to help other people. Without meditation, there's no way that you can develop the habit of seeing that everything is a projection. Meditation is vital. It's essential. It's sort of like the water, it's the air in your life.
A lot of material in a short time. So, if we started in, I don't know that I could even answer the questions, but does anybody have any burning, one or two people have any burning questions about anything that they just saw or heard?
Don, there is a question on YouTube.
Okay.
I'll read it. The student asks, why would I want to quiet my mind when I'm having a feeling? I thought we need to be okay with the discomfort and then learn from it. Like it will keep coming back until we learn the lesson.
Say that again.
Okay. Why would I want to quiet my mind when I'm having a feeling? I thought we need to be okay with the discomfort and then learn from it. Like it will keep coming back until we learn the lesson.
Well, we can say a little bit about that. What are feelings? What kind of feelings can we have? She's saying, whoever this person says is talking about unpleasant feelings. Well, hey, there are pleasant feelings too, right? And we want those. We want pleasant feelings. And unpleasant feelings we don't want. And then even Buddhism goes so far as to call sort of neutral feelings, which are not pleasant nor unpleasant. So yeah, we're going to have feelings all the time. It's not a question of not wanting them or because as at the moment there's a contact with an object, there's a feeling. I mean, we can talk about visual objects, auditory objects, you might say, gustatory, tactile, you name it. Whenever our mind, whichever door of the mind comes into contact with something, if it's pleasant, if we experience a pleasant feeling when we come into contact with it, we just have that experience. If we see somebody that we dislike and they walk into the room and we see them, an unpleasant feeling arises. We don't have a choice. It's like, bam, because the moment the moment our mind contacts the object, be it pleasant or unpleasant or neutral, it happens so quick. This is it's kind of interesting that this question came up. So this is a quote from a friend of mine, and he's anyway. When I knew him first met him, he was a monk, and then he became he graduated summa cum laude from the monastery in Dharamsala. Anyway, his name is George Dreyfus. He was at Williams College in Western Massachusetts in the Berkshires. I think he's retired now, but he's a brilliant man. And he came here and taught one time, and he said, the first thing is to weaken the link between feeling and attachment. So or aversion. So as the moment we come into contact with an object, we're going to have feelings. All day long, we're going to have feelings. We're going to have pleasant, unpleasant, neutral feelings. You're just going to be coming up like smoke out of a smokestack. Now, when we have pleasant feelings, what do we want? What is the instinct of our mind? What? I want it. I don't want it to stop. I want to cling to it. Pleasant, as soon as whatever the object that triggered that pleasant feeling, our mind clings to that and wants it. It does not want to let go. But guess what? It doesn't last. It causes just the clinging to the pleasant feeling and the fact that it's impermanent always causes us problems. We're always dissatisfied. And we suffer more when we have to let it go. And then an unpleasant feeling arises, and what do? We feel aversion, which is what is basically clinging to the thought of, I can't stand this. Isn't that aversion? Again, it's these things are coming up in the mind, pleasant and unpleasant feelings. Pleasant feelings, we cling. Unpleasant feelings, we feel aversion. Neutral feelings, we basically space out or feel indifferent towards. So we're going to have feelings. We cannot stop our feelings. But eventually, over time, if we plant the right seeds, more and more of our life will be pervaded by pleasant feelings and less by unpleasant feelings. How is that? How do we do that? How do we plant the seeds for pleasant feelings and not unpleasant, aka suffering feelings? By our actions. This is why we don't have much time, but in fact, time's out. But this is a crucial part of the practice. And I try to emphasize this in this class, is that there are 5 lay precepts in Buddhism. 2/3 of the Buddha's teachings have to do with ethics. There's no way to have a peace of mind if our behavior is all over the place. Forget about your mind. It's going to be a long time before we can control that, right? But as Venerable Robina says, you can keep your mouth shut and your hands to yourself. I love that. So we can control our body, the actions of our body, and our speech. We in the 10 non-virtuous actions, the first 3, there's many, many more, right? But the first 3, body, are killing and stealing and sexual misconduct. We can't control our body. That's easier to control than our mind by far. The speech, a little bit harder to control. Lying, slander, harsh and frivolous speech. Those are the 4 of speech. So at least we began to try to be mindful as much as we can of the actions of our body and our speech, and as gradually as we become more and more mindful of our mind. So it's crucial in Buddhist meditation practice to live, to really make an effort to live ethically and not harm yourself or any living being. And so we talk about the 10 non-virtuous actions, but the opposite of the 10 virtuous actions are things that we need to focus on. So again, so as much as possible, in Buddhist countries, there are 5 lay precepts, I think, that generally are encouraged for lay people to practice. And I think it's a good thing for us to at least entertain. Even if you, as Venerable Raja Lamazopa's attendant said, if you can keep one of these, you're an outlier. Do not kill. Avoid killing. Avoid lying. stealing, avoid sexual misconduct, avoid lying, and intoxicants, getting loaded. Because it's, by the way, it just so happens that when you get loaded, it's real easy to do the other four, right? So important to, as much as possible, avoid intoxicants. So that's, I want to emphasize that there's no possibility to ever have your meditation practice go anywhere, particularly if you want to get deep, you want to have some sort of transformational experience. We have to live ethically. And to do that, we have to be mindful. So when these negative mind states arise, or when the actions of body or speech, particularly opportunities, when those things arise in the mind, we have to be mindful and not follow those thoughts, not follow those actions. Otherwise, our meditation practice is doomed. Crucial point. Yeah. So there are two books that I like in this course. One is Kathleen McDonald wrote this book 100 years ago, Sanghi Kadre, but it's called How to Meditate, and you can get it. I don't know if you can get it in the bookstore. To be sure, you can get it online. And the other one is Mindfulness in Plain English by Bhante Gunaratna, and he's a Theravada monk. I think he lives in Maryland. Not sure, but this is, both of these books are solid gold and wonderful, sort of introduction to meditation. And I just want to say one thing too about meditation, just because we have to look at the benefits. And I think Venerable Rene did a great job of talking about, and His Holiness, all about the benefits of meditation practice. And I mean, I work in the health profession, and huge benefits. I mean, we talk about, this is a conversation that we wouldn't have had 10 or 15 years ago. We talk about, mental plasticity. Most of us think our mind is like, we're just stuck with the mind we have. But it's not the case. I mean, there's a lot of scientific evidence to show that new synapses can be created through different types of meditation practice. We can transform our mind. And it's showing up in PET scans and different kinds of imaging studies where they'll take meditators and have them focus, for example, on compassion. They can see the right prefrontal cortex lights up. So there's a lot of scientific evidence supporting meditation. It's not just, the Tibetans or the monks or the monastics, but now it's becoming more and more mainstream. And a lot of people want, the peace and that joy and that tranquility that Venerable Rene is talking about. I know I do. So, last but not least, this is just another point. His Holiness talked about two kinds of meditation. Remember what those were? Anybody? That was one. And absorptive, yeah. And that's what Venerable Rene was talking about, calm abiding. Where your mind, basically, sometimes we use the word concentration, but where the mind can focus, can just abide on an object without being the least bit distracted. And we need both the analytical and the contemplative. We need the contemplative. Sometimes I'm using different words here, but we talk in analytical meditation, contemplative meditation, lots of different words, but it's a kind of mind that when you develop a focused awareness and then you start doing some contemplation, like you want to transform your mind into compassion, for example, by thinking of a situation, a person that you love who's suffering, and you see that suffering, and then you experience the compassion. May they be free of suffering. And then you get the feeling, not the words, but you have the feeling of compassion. Okay? And then you, with this focused awareness, you hold your mind on that experience of compassion. Not the words, but just the feeling of, if that feeling could speak, it would say, may she be free of suffering. You know? And that focused awareness is what allows compassion to literally transform our mind. Otherwise, the mind's all over the place. So we have to have both. So every Buddhist practice that we do at Kadampa Center, we do a lot of analytical meditation. Like if you go to a Zen retreat, I mean, how many of you ever done a Zen retreat? I've done a bunch. Just sit there and stare at the wall. No contemplation. You just be with your mind for many hours a day. It's torture for me. Anyway, but we do a lot of analytical meditation here, but it should always be combined with calm abiding. We meditate on loving kindness. And then once we get experience or a taste of that, we stop the analysis, we get the experience, we have the feeling, the experience that goes with it, and then we allow the mind to be absorbed single-pointedly in that feeling and hold on to it as long as we can. And then when we lose the feeling, we go back to the analysis, and we think of the reasons why we love this person, why we need to love all beings, for example. There's different meditations and contemplations we might use. And then we develop again the feeling, and then we hold on to it with single-pointed concentration. Well, expert in this really, I mean, His Holiness was talking about it. You know, when you really hate somebody, you know how you do the analysis? I hate them because of this, and this. And then you get to the point where you really feel so strongly, the hatred is so strong, and then you just sit there single-pointedly and let it sink in. That's not what we're talking about. You know, this is the meditations we're talking about building up beneficial states of mind. But we do this all the time, don't we? We analyze situations. Most of our self-talk, 98% of it is negative. We're always putting ourselves down, always comparing ourselves to something that better, whatever, you know, and we need to stop this cycle, craziness, and sort of develop a positive state. So again, we're going to learn, you know, we'll do this when we get more into the analytical practices later on in this class, but it'll be a combination of analytical or, you know, the contemplative practices combined with the single-pointed mind. So that's about enough for tonight. There's some homework which I'll give to Linda and we can post it. If you want to get these books, and I'll list some pages for you to read in these books. And I would suggest the practice that you do for the next week. I mean, if you want to go for $20, you can get this guy on Amazon, but I don't recommend it. It was a gift of mine, but I'm having fun with it. But it's you can just focus on the breath. You can follow the breath. You can just follow you want to scan your body for any areas of tension and just follow the breath, the in breath and the out breath, and the in breath and the out breath. Some people follow it here. Some people experience the chest expanding. The rising and falling of the abdomen. There are different ways to do this. Breath's a nice neutral object. I knew one monk who had tinnitus. Anybody got ringing in your ears? That was his object. That's what he focused on, was the ringing silence in his head. It could be anything. It could be just the sensation of your bottom sitting on the seat. But for most of us, most people, I think, as beginners, it's good to take a neutral object like our breath and focus on that. And then the mind will just squirm, just like he said. It'll go all over the place, particularly if we're new. It'll go all over the place, and we'll bring it back. It goes over here. It's like, it's said like the wild elephant of the mind. That's why there was an image of an elephant. if you take a wild elephant and tether it to a pole, what's it going to do in the beginning? It's going to try to get free. But once it realizes it's tethered, it'll settle down. That's what we'll do. In the beginning, the mind will go off, and we'll bring it back with kind of neutral. We're not going to beat ourselves up about it because we're not perfect. We're new at this. We bring it back. Maybe in a 10-minute or 15-minute session, you might bring it back 100 times. It's okay. Every time you bring it back, you just curled 100 pounds mentally. We're building up the muscle called mindfulness and awareness and the ability to stay focused. So we'll do that practice at home for the next week to develop that kind of focused state of mind. And we'll meet here next week. So you want to do the dedication verse?
Sure.
And by the way, I'll stick around a few minutes to answer any questions if anybody has any. Yeah. So this is from Shantideva. He was a great Buddhist saint, and this is a prayer that we often do at the end of our teachings. May all beings everywhere, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be free from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may these never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid. May those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, till then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. Hey, thank you.
Thanks, everyone. And if anyone wants to stick around, I can run through how to access course materials. If everyone's already expert on that, then have a great evening.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Don.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Could I ask one question real quick?
Sure, go ahead.
So what's happening when I meditate and I start to focus on my breathing, I start controlling my breathing. So are we supposed to just naturally breathe and then observe it? Because I find myself, as soon as I turn observation to breath, I'll stop. It changes. It's so I was just curious. I know he said he was going to hang out to answer questions. I didn't know if he had any.
Well, and just notice yourself trying to control your breath and let it go and come back to just following it. Just
Thank you.
Because it's happening all the time anyway, right?
Until it stops when I try to focus on it.
Yeah, you got that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Anyone want to go through how to access course materials? Anyone? Kurt? Okay. And online. So I'll keep the screen up. So if anyone wants to stick around online, I'll keep it running here. Let me see. Yeah, and Casey, you're still on here. I will find the author of the one book called Mindfulness in Plain English, but the other one is by Kathleen McDonald.
Okay.
All right, so let me share my screen.
Linda, I
Yes.
believe he said it was Bunatanta or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, but I have no idea how to spell it.
Oh, here we go. Thank you. Okay, it is B as in boy, H-A-N-T-E,
Okay.
Bante. And then the second word is G-U-N-A-R-A-T-A-N-A. Mindfulness in plain English.
All right. And do you think we can get them on Amazon?
I'm sure you can, yeah. You can get
Okay.
everything on Amazon. I know you can get the Kathleen McDonald book on Amazon.
Yeah, they're both on Amazon. I just bought them.
Oh, perfect.
Oh, wow, you're quick. Okay.
Okay, so to access course materials, you would go to kadampa-center.org. And the easiest thing to do is register for this course. And there's this nice button up here in the top right corner, calendar. That's my favorite spot. And then we would go to, here's February 13th, Discovering Buddhism. When we click on that, that brings us to a page with lots of information, okay, about this particular module. And to enroll in Discovering Buddhism, you click right here, which if you're on Zoom, you've probably done this process. And so then you would enter your information. And then you should get, this page pops up with lots of more information. And you would also receive this exact same stuff in an email as well. Okay, so you don't have to like save this page. You'll get this exact same stuff in an email. And so to access the course materials, it's how to do that is right here. So you would go to kadampa-center.org/user and enter in the username and the password. So we can do that. And the password, I always forget. Okay. All right, so I've entered that username, db-participant, and then the password that you would get in your email. And that brings you to this password protected page on the website. Discovering Buddhism course materials for 2023-2024. And right now we're at how to meditate, and that's module 2, and module 1, the information and the homework is there. There's no homework posted yet, so that link is not live. I'll get that posted tonight, if not tomorrow, or tomorrow, if not tonight. And so how to meditate, the information, you would click on that. And that brings us to all the information about this particular module. So our instructor, me, the program assistant, our classes, how to attend in person. You come here to the center. If you want to do on Zoom, you click here, live stream here. YouTube recordings of missed classes. They're in this handy dandy, new and improved playlist here, which is great. And then I'll add tonight's. And so the top one is the most recent class. Obviously, tonight's class is not there yet because we're still recording. And so then so that's really handy if you've missed a class and want to make it up, or you want to go back and review something. And then we've got the dates, and then here's our online readings that are required if you're working towards doing everything 100%. So the Discovering Buddhism at Home online readings are here. And I'm guessing that Don will probably not assign specifics for those, but that's something you can read on your own to support this class. And then this link here, that's only a few pages long about meditation. And then the book, the one that's required is How to Meditate by Kathleen McDonald. And then I'll add the one that Don suggested as well here. And then How to Give, and we talked about that at the beginning of class. And then if you are working towards a certificate of achievement for each module. We do not do that through Kadampa Center. So we offer the classes, but everything else you would need to track and submit to the FPMT, and all that information can be found at this learning center. And you have to create an account and then go to Discovering Buddhism. For each module, there is an enrollment key, and as we move through the modules, I'll add those enrollment keys. So for module 1, it's clear light. You'll be prompted to enter that. And then module 14 is a big one. So it's recommended that if you want to do all 14 modules and complete them all, and earn an FPMT Discovering Buddhism completion certificate, click here to learn how to start module 14 as soon as possible. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing that. Are there any questions from anyone? Yeah, so to watch the video one more time, if we go back to this information page, first you could just go to YouTube and put in Discovering Buddhism Module 2, and usually you'll find it right off the bat. But if you do go to the FPMT Online Learning Center here, so I'm going to click on that link, and this is in that information page I just went through. You would click on that link. It's going to take you to this FPMT Online Learning Center. I'm already signed in here, so I already have an account and I'm already signed in. But you would need to sign in or create an account and then come down to Discovering Buddhism. And this is a great place to see all the information for these courses. So here's module 1, Mind and Its Potential, module 2, How to Meditate. And if you click on How to Meditate, this has all the information, including this great activity log, and that helps you track everything. Oh, it just downloaded. I'm not going to open it. And then if you keep going down, there's, the reading materials, and then that video is right here. And this one's nice because it doesn't have like ads or anything like that. Typically, if I go to my own YouTube, thing and try to search on something, I get a bunch of ads pop up. But if you go to the Online Learning Center, you'll skip the ads. But this is a great place to have, just so much information for each of these, and especially if you're working towards a completion certificate. And again, you would need to do that through this website, the FPMT Online Learning Center, not through Kadampa Center. Okay. Any other questions? Aheen, did you get the title of the book and everything? Okay, good. All right. Anything else, you guys? Michael, you good? Margaret, you good? All right. Nate? All right. Thanks, everyone. Y'all have a good night, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you,
Bye.
Linda.
Absolutely. Bye. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.